My neighbor's dog barked at my barbecue pit like it was Satan himself, and by Monday, I had a $3,000 fine taped to my door like a scarlet letter. Welcome to Karenland, where the HOA wields power like a medieval king drunk on mead. I'm Jake, a 32-year-old mechanic who moved to this cookie-cutter suburb for a quieter life after years in the city. My mistake was thinking quiet meant peaceful. This neighborhood, Greenview Estates, is a pressure cooker of nosy Karens and clipboard-wielding HOA enforcers who measure your grass with a ruler. My crime? A DIY barbecue pit I built in my backyard, a sturdy, brick-lined beauty I spent weeks perfecting. It was my pride, my weekend ritual, where I'd grill ribs and crack beers with my buddies. Apparently, it was also an affront to the HOA's sacred aesthetic standards. The fine arrived courtesy of Cynthia, the HOA president, a woman with a smile so fake it could star in a toothpaste ad. She'd been gunning for me since I moved in, probably because my pickup truck didn't match her vision of a pristine cul-de-sac. The notice cited unauthorized permanent structures and demanded $3,000 by the end of the month, or they'd slap a lien on my house. $3,000 for a barbecue pit? I'd rather burn the place down than pay that. I stormed to the HOA meeting that night, the fine crumpled in my fist. The community center was packed with neighbors, half of them sipping overpriced coffee, the other half whispering like they were at a funeral. Cynthia stood at the podium, her pearls gleaming under the fluorescent lights, preaching about community values. I didn't wait for her to finish. "This is robbery," I shouted, holding up the fine. "You're fining me $3,000 for a barbecue pit that's safer than your Botox injections." The room gasped. Cynthia's face turned the color of her Merlot. "Mr. Larson," she said, her voice dripping with condescension, "rules are rules. Your structure violates Code 17B, and the fine stands." I could feel the eyes of the room on me, some sympathetic, most just enjoying the drama. That's when I noticed Tom, the quiet old guy from across the street, sitting in the back. He gave me a nod, the kind that says, "Keep going, kid." Tom was a mystery, a widower in his 70s. He kept to himself, tending his garden and avoiding HOA nonsense. Rumor was he'd been here since the neighborhood was just dirt and dreams. I didn't know it then, but Tom was about to turn this circus upside down. The next week, I doubled down. If they wanted a war, I'd give them one. I invited half the neighborhood to a barbecue, cranked the music, and let the pit roar. The smell of ribs filled the air, and for a few hours it felt like freedom. Kids ran around, neighbors laughed, and even Mrs. Jenkins, the 80-year-old gossip queen, showed up with her famous potato salad. But Cynthia wasn't having it. She marched into my yard with 2 HOA lackeys, brandishing another fine. "This is a blatant violation," she shrieked, waving a clipboard. "You're making a mockery of our community." "Community?" I shot back, pointing at the crowd. "This is community, not your petty fines." The neighbors cheered, but Cynthia's eyes narrowed. She promised to escalate things, legal action, liens, the works. I didn't care. I was done playing nice. That night, Tom knocked on my door. He held a manila envelope and had a glint in his eye I hadn't seen before. "Jake," he said, "you're stirring the pot and I like it, but you're fighting the wrong way." He handed me the envelope. Inside was a stack of documents, old HOA records, bylaws, even land deeds. "Read these," he said. "Cynthia's been running this place like her personal kingdom for years. Time someone reminded her who really owns this land." I spent all night poring over the papers. Turns out, Greenview Estates was built on land Tom's family had owned decades ago. He'd sold it to developers but kept a small stake, including veto power over certain HOA decisions, a clause Cynthia either didn't know about or ignored. The barbecue pit? It was on a tiny parcel still technically under Tom's control. Cynthia's fine was legally void. I could have gone straight to a lawyer, but I wanted to hit her where it hurt, her ego. The next HOA meeting was standing room only, thanks to the barbecue buzz. Cynthia was mid-speech when I walked in, Tom at my side. I held up the documents and laid it out. The fine was baseless, the HOA had overstepped, and Tom was ready to sue if they didn't back off. The room erupted. Neighbors who'd been silent for years started shouting, airing their own HOA grievances, fines for flower beds, bans on kids' bikes, even a guy who got dinged for painting his mailbox blue. Cynthia tried to regain control, but the tide had turned. Then Tom dropped the bomb. He stepped forward, pulled out a check for $3,000 and said, "I'm paying Jake's fine not because it's valid, but to shut you up, Cynthia. And I'm doing it as the majority landowner of this development." The room went silent. Cynthia's jaw dropped. Nobody knew Tom had that kind of pull. He'd been sitting on it for years, watching, waiting. You'd think that was the win, but life's not that tidy. Cynthia didn't go down quietly. She rallied her loyalists, spread rumors I was a troublemaker, and even tried to get me evicted for disrupting community harmony. The neighborhood split, half saw me as a hero, half as a punk. The tension boiled over at the annual block party. Cynthia showed up with a lawyer, claiming my barbecue pit was a public nuisance. I was ready to lose it when Tom, calm as ever, pulled me aside. "Let her dig her own grave," he said. And she did. Her lawyer's case fell apart when Tom's documents proved the HOA had been overcharging everyone for years, pocketing maintenance fees for non-existent projects. The crowd turned on her. By the end of the night, Cynthia resigned, her reputation in tatters. I kept my pit, and the neighborhood started rewriting the HOA rules from scratch. But here's the gut punch. Tom didn't make it to see the new rules. A week later, he had a heart attack. Quiet, no fuss, just gone. At his funeral, I learned he'd been fighting cancer for years. Never said a word. He left me a note in his will. "Keep the pit burning, Jake. Don't let the Karens win." I cried like a kid. The barbecue pit still stands, but every time I fire it up, it feels heavier. Tom paid my fine not just with money, but with his last fight. He showed me community isn't about rules, it's about standing up for what's right, even when it costs you. Cynthia's gone, but there's always another Karen waiting. I keep Tom's note in my wallet, a reminder to keep fighting. What do you think? Was Tom right to play his card the way he did? Or should he have exposed the HOA sooner? How would you handle a Karen like Cynthia in your own neighborhood?